We did just get an email from Wendy in Voluntown. Thank you so much for writing in, Wendy. Now, Voluntown's a little bit north of Stonington, right in the path of it. And she wrote to say, Rachel, with this new track that has pushed things a little further to the west, places like Voluntown that used to be on the left side are now on the right side. Does that mean they're going to be affected by heavier winds? I just feel like it's a good chance to give a little primer about sort of rain side versus wind side and what that means.
Yes, so the left side of the storm, and this really only happens in this part of the country. Down south, you see these very symmetrical storms, but as the storms come up the coast, they start to transition into what's called an extratropical storm. So they're turning into storms that we more typically see around here, and they get very lopsided. So yes, the left side of the storm is where you typically get the heaviest rain, and the right side is where you get the worst wind. Isaias, we were on the right side.
Yeah, because that came up New York.
We remember that. Not only that, but a threat for tornadoes. Now we're on the left side for pretty much most of the state now. So that puts all of us under the gun for seeing flash flooding. And the Storm Prediction Center and the WPC, which is a branch of the National Weather Service that really handles water, saying that they're keeping a close eye on all of Connecticut as there could be an additional 3 to 5 inches of rain over the course of the next several hours. So if you remember with Fred, it only took about 3.5 inches of rain in West Hartford in order for everything to go bonkers. So we are, looking at that happening again for some towns. And where will those, real trouble spots be? That's the question. So let's take a look. We have a tropical storm warning that is up for the entire state of Connecticut. Tropical storm force sustained winds. No, we're not going to have sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, but certainly we have gusts that are up there. We saw a gust just a little while ago come in for Rhode Island at about 70 miles per hour. So that is on the east side of the storm's track, those 70-mile-per-hour gusts. But winds are underperforming for us, which is something that we like to see. And even as the eye, and I think this computer model does a really good job of showing it, kind of treks across the state and gets cut off from its source of energy, which is the warm water, and it's been cut off for the last 24 to 36 hours, those peak wind gusts will continue to diminish over time. So we are still talking about the chance for gusts up between 35, 45 miles per hour, and maybe on the high end up to about 55 miles per hour, but likely not any higher than that. Now, about 45 miles per hour is the criteria where we start to see down trees and power lines begin to come down. And I do think that this will be kind of unfortunately exaggerated, the outages that we get, because it will get so rainy and the ground will be so wet. Now, one thing I wanted to mention for folks that are in areas like Stonington is look what happens to the wind direction. I'm actually going to back up and go through this one more time. So the wind, as the storm was coming in, was out of the northeast, pushing the water away from Long Island Sound. At 3 o'clock, we're still looking at that wind coming down from the north, but look what happens as we head through the afternoon and into the evening. That wind starts to shift direction as the eye is moving through northwestern Connecticut. And remember, by that point, it won't be powerful winds, but still seeing tropical downpours. Look what happens to the wind. It starts to come out of the south and the west, and that could start to kind of cause some major wave action along the immediate shoreline. So that may be the time to watch. But we certainly passed the period of time where there was a threat for that major storm surge, and that push east really did end up helping us. Through the overnight and into the day tomorrow, winds are still gusty, but we're not talking about winds and knocking down power lines by that point. So regarding the timing of this storm, the worst of the winds, and again, I say worst of the winds because I think that for us here in Connecticut, they won't be as high as areas to our east. But I'll see the gusts that are up to 40, 45 miles per hour through this evening, through about 7, 8 o'clock at night. After that, the winds will come down. But the threat for off and on heavy downpours is going to continue right into the day on Monday. It won't rain the entire time, but we'll see these off and on flooding downpours. Okay, so we have that flash flood watch that's in effect. Here's what happened earlier today. So that eye started to weaken as it moved right over Block Island. I feel like Elsa did the same thing, which is really rare to have two storms in the same year move right over the same spot. After that, the storm is making landfall here in Rhode Island and then passing into Connecticut. This is kind of the side of the eye wall that has the heaviest rainfall. So these are the areas to watch for immediate concerns regarding flash flooding. So that's Essex up through Chester, Killingworth, and East Hampton. And I don't know if you guys were in this when Fred's remnants were coming through. This just looks like you're in Florida or you're somewhere tropical in nature. You can see bigger raindrops. It doesn't look like your normal average rainfall that we get here in New England. And those heavier downpours are starting to get closer and closer to Hartford and areas that were hit exceptionally hard, Newington, by that flooding that we had with Fred. Seeing some showers here, Eastford, Pomfret. I would expect the power outage numbers to start to come up for areas in Tolland and Windham counties. And the reason why is because that's where some of the strongest wind gusts will likely move to as that eye continues to trek across the state. That's where the worst winds will be, again, on the north and east side of that. I think I can take this legend off, guys, the one that says snow here. I think we're out of the woods by this point. Still areas of heavy rain, though, in northwestern Connecticut and steady rain in New Haven, but not yet getting into those flooding downpours that will be moving in here shortly. So an excessive rainfall outlook has been issued with this bullseye here over southern New England. And tomorrow, even with the threat for locally heavy downpours, there's a slight risk for flooding as well. Unfortunately, and you never want to be that person who's telling you what to do. I mean, I feel like it seems like common sense, but unfortunately, every time we see flooding, we get video of people that are trying to drive through it. And I know that, you're just thinking, I got to get to where I'm going, and I don't know what to do, or maybe you don't know an alternate way. The thing is, you just don't know how deep the water is, and it can really only take 1, 2, 3 feet to really cause issues for your car and for yourself. So just don't try to drive through water-covered roadways. Don't try to go around any barriers that may be setting up today. As I was coming in today around the greater Hartford area, there weren't any flooding issues just yet. But again, as we head through the afternoon, that could become more and more of an issue. And what is more of an issue here is the context for this system. So, normal summers, we can handle this amount of rainfall easy. I mean, almost every summer we have drought conditions. Not this summer. We have a surplus of rainfall just this month alone, 1 1/3 of an inch of rain. And for the year, we're about 4.5 inches above average. So everything is running high. Everything is super saturated. So we'll continue to see off and on flooding rain heading through the evening tonight. And we'll see off and on downpours into the day tomorrow too. But by that point, guys, it looks like the worst of the wind will be over. We'll take another look coming up in just a bit, guys.